probably heard that mortgage rates are rising, and many economic indicators are pointing to rates going up even further. If you're thinking about pulling cash out of your home to consolidate debt, invest in the stock market, purchase a rental property, or even buy the Bitcoin dip, you should call now before rates go any higher. And use the equity in your home to meet your financial goals. We close most loans in less than 21 days to get you the cash you need fast.
That's just me beating my head on the desk. Need I say more? Buy the Bitcoin dip. With the money in your house. What could possibly go wrong? Oh, my God. David, welcome to the show. How are you? Hey, David. What's up, my friend?
Oh, nothing much, man. I'm laughing. I'm thinking about you banging your head and Brent just rolling his eyes.
Two commercials back to back.
I know. That's why I had to laugh about it. And I was thinking on other things, you know, like I'm not going to try to knock on people, but, you know, like the guy that says take, you know, older people take your, I guess, how do you do it? Where you take the loan out.
Reverse mortgage?
Yeah.
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 Actually, there is a case in that if it's done correctly, okay, and most times they're not. That's the problem. But from a financial planning perspective, there is a case that can be made for a reverse mortgage, but you've got to be very careful how you do it.
Exactly. But, hey, what I want to hit you with is I didn't want to hit you with that. I want to hit you with what you were talking about earlier. It's not really about – we used to have consumer math in school. Like, it was like an elective or, you know, people that really needed, like, when they got out of school.
Right.
Well, Lance, the thing about it now is that they're worrying about the STAR testing and all this stuff. So they're not really worrying about, you know, balancing checkbooks. They're worrying about balancing their own checkbook.
Exactly. No, and that's exactly right. And, you know, again, we just send our kids out into the world, you know, with one of the most underprepared and one of the most important areas, our money, right? And look, it's just like, here's an interesting anecdote to all this, David.
Okay.
Out of all the shows on radio, which ones are the least listened to?
People like yours and Steve Drake's and
Bingo.
People like that.
Yeah, financial shows. They're the least listened to on radio. But yet we all want to hear about politics and all that other stuff because that just gets our blood all fired up. But, you know, financial education is like, oh, my God, don't talk to me about money. It's so boring, right? You know, budget. It's a 4-letter word. I'm surprised they haven't banned it from the FCC at this point. So, you know, nobody wants to talk about being on a budget because nobody wants to be told what they can and cannot buy, right? Don't tell me I can't go cash out my house and buy Bitcoin. Pfft, I can do that if I want.
Well, hey, Lance, I hit you this a couple months ago. What, like you're talking about, you know, what you're talking about, maybe felon. I really think it's going to be this. My dad's been wanting to buy a car, so I went there, and so I'm walking by these Dodge trucks that are $80,000, and I'm thinking they're like, oh, the new financing is 72 and 84. I said, are you crazy? And Lance, that's still paying $600 and $700 a month.
Bingo. Absolutely.
And I'm like, are you crazy?
And that's what I was saying earlier. My parents' house, now this was in the 70s, right? But my parents' house was $35,000. We're talking about buying a car that's 3 times the value of a house with land.
Yeah.
So,
I don't understand it. I think that's what's going to be our next failure.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody's trying to, you know, like Dave Ramsey says, you pull up to the light, and everybody's trying to impress everybody. I'm driving a 10-year-old truck, Lance.
Listen, I buy used. Brent, how old is that Mazda you drive?
Going on 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
And I buy used vehicles.
Silver Bullet's 11 years old?
Silver Bullet's 11 years old. Wow. 226,000 miles.
Yep.
Well, that's good. Hey, man, y'all do a good time. I mean, y'all do a good show. I just want to tell y'all thank y'all so much.
Thank you, David. We appreciate it.
Okay.
Don, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Okay. You know, with all these other problems you're talking about, I saw on the Internet, I forgot which financial website it was recently, that by 2050, half of all jobs will be automated.
Correct.
Now, if that's really true, I mean, that's a catastrophe waiting to happen because you don't need that many people to service the automation.
Oh,
right?
That's the beautiful thing about automation. According to the mainstream media, right, is that the more robots we have, that means that it's more jobs that other people can do that, the robots are doing. Right. So if in other words, if a robot takes your job, well, that just frees you up to go do something else that you'd prefer doing. It's kind of like that tax credit that they wanted to give out under the Obama administration that would allow, give you a basic income of $2,000 a month. So that way you could just be an artist. If you choose to be an artist, we got a basic income coming in so that you can just go be an artist. Everybody forgets about
all that. It's impossible. The math doesn't work.
Well,
the math doesn't work.
Don, don't worry about who's going to pay for it because we can just issue debt for that.
So seriously, though, you have kids. I have kids.
Absolutely.
You're a little younger than yours. What are they going to do?
No, it's a huge problem. And it's a huge problem on two fronts. One, and yes, I was joking around a little bit to make a point, but it's two huge problems on two different fronts. One is that, yes, the automation problem is a big issue. The second issue is that we're not training our kids for the jobs of tomorrow. We're still trying, and we have a president in this country that's focused on the jobs of yesterday, not the jobs of tomorrow. We're number 3 in world robotics. Why are we not number 1?
Even if they were, Lance, though, even if the education were proper, if you just do the math, there aren't enough jobs to go around.
Exactly. But there's one thing.
What I'm saying, even if the education system were perfect, we're digging our own economic grave. We're going to have to decrease the surplus population, like Scrooge said, right?
Yeah, well, the other thing too is that we don't teach is where we took out of our schools. We were talking about this last week. We took out of our schools all the trade skills, right? So. Regardless of robots, we're still going to need people that can build houses. We're going to need people that can plumb. We need people that can do electricians' work, repair cars. And yes, even some of those jobs can be automated, but there's still going to be a lot of that stuff, those trade skills that need to be done.
What I'm saying is that I think you understand my point.
I do.
Even if all the education were aligned correctly and people were going into trades, there aren't enough trade jobs necessary. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
If manufacturing is all replaced by robotics, there's going to be a huge unemployment rate in the future no matter what you do.
Well, you have that combined with demographics, and you're absolutely right.
Right.
No,
So
the problem is that we're going to realign the technology with the economy at some point. You're going to go through a system change that is going to realign jobs and wages and reality, right? Back to a common metric. We live a standard of living in this country that is exceedingly higher than every other country in the world. That's why we export jobs to a lower cost of labor. Eventually, all that is going to align itself. But this is 30, 40, 50, 60, 80 years in the future. But eventually, we're going to hit that point to where all this will begin to align itself just from the basics of economics, and the standard of living will have to come down in the United States to align itself with the standard of livings in other countries so that jobs can functionally work in both countries.
And isn't that the plan of the globalists all along? What you just said, that's their plan. Their plan is
because when you do that, it realigns the wealth to those at the top, right?
But right. So either there's going to be, what is that saying about go out with a whimper, or go out with a bang, or don't go easily into the night, unless the people really, I hate to quote the Unabomber, but some of what the Unabomber said, what he predicted 20 years ago, and I thought it was completely nuts back then. I don't think it's nuts anymore. Some of what he predicted, I don't agree with his tactics.
Right.
But he warned us that if you have a technocracy, it's going to hurt the common man, isn't what he said?
Well, and it is. And again, we haven't reached the point at this. And look, the damage is already being done. We just haven't reached the point to where people realize it yet, which is.
I realize it.
Well, yeah, but people that still have access to credit, people that still are able to leverage themselves up, people that are still able to acquire cheap products. As long as that environment exists, then the status quo will remain just as it is. And again, this is what you're talking about is very long-term stuff, right? We've got to have.
I'm going to go, but I'm going to recommend a movie to you. I don't know if you like movies. If you like Charlton Heston sci-fi movies, it was a great movie. You and I are about the same age.
I've seen them all.
74 was the Omega Man. Remember
Absolutely.
the Omega Man?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a fantastic movie where basically there was a biological warfare, and he was a big. He was a technical guy, and all the zombies were trying to kill him because they were trying to get rid of the technology that destroyed the world.
Well, and then there was also Soylent Green. So
right.
Appreciate the call, Don. But no, look, and look, I don't want to get too doom and gloomy on you here, but Don has the right point, which is that the trends in economic growth and the trends in demographics, and more importantly, the trends in debt are unsustainable. And there is going to be a reset at some point. Now, it may not be in my lifetime, it may not be in your lifetime, but more likely than not, it will occur in our children's lifetimes. And this is why, I spend a lot of time working with my kids, making sure that they are educated, they're informed, and they have a ability to participate in the economy at whatever level it is. It's also why I'm building a lot of safety shelters for my kids for down the road, because their world in the future is going to be vastly different than the world that exists today, which is vastly different than the world that existed back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s when I was growing up. The world changes. The economies change. Things change. And while we've had an unprecedented growth rate in this economy, really over the last 160, 170 years, there is a point to which industrialization reaches its maturation, which we are approaching that. And and this is why we see weaker wage growth, we see weaker levels of economic growth, we see lower levels of inflationary growth. And this is all coincident with demographics, with debt, with these issues. These are the direct results of surges in debt and surges in population growth and demographics. And this is why we've talked about the importance of controlled immigration. Population growth is one of the biggest conundrums of economic growth. If you have the right type of population growth, you can increase economic activity. The wrong type of population growth, and you actually dilute or divert economic activity. And unfortunately, this open borders, immigration, free-flowing type situation is importing the wrong type of immigration. It's the immigration that drags us down to a lower common denominator in terms of wages and salaries and economic growth, et cetera. We need to be focused on bringing in the jobs and the bringing in the immigration that leads to higher levels of economic growth, that brings us from number 3 in the world in robotics to number 1, brings us to the top of medicine, at the top of healthcare, the things that the economies of the world, not just the United States, the economies of the world are going to be dependent on. See, we need to be focusing on those jobs, because those are the things not only can we use internally in the United States, but we can also export as well. But we have to be the best at those jobs.